I was talking with a buddy the other day because his house just had a pipe burst in the basement, and he was freaking out over whether to throw a regular sump pump at the problem or actually invest in something that could grind up the debris that was already settling in the pit. He's the kind of guy who likes to fix things himself but doesn't want to spend a month on a half-baked solution. That's the exact spot where the Goulds AGS1011 grinder pump shows up on the table. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Before you click Add to Cart, let's walk through what makes this pump tick, where it shines, and why it might still be a miss for some projects. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have with any grinder pump is the fear of buying a unit that's either overkill or underpowered for the job. With the AGS1011 you're looking at a 1 HP motor that's designed to run continuously while fully submerged. That's not something you see on a cheap pump and hope device. The motor's continuous operation rating means if you have a situation where water is constantly flowing through the pit like a basement that sees a slow leak after heavy rain, you can leave it running overnight without worrying about overheating. In my experience, many homeowner-grade pumps simply shut down after a few hours and then you're left with a wet floor and a busted pipe still gurgling. The real differentiator is the Axial lobe-cutter design paired with an 8-hole cutting plate. Think of it as a tiny, high-speed shredder built into the pump. When solid waste, think hair, small tree roots, or even bits of drywall get sucked in, those lobes slice the material into a slurry that can pass through the 2-inch NPT discharge. For someone who's dealing with a partially clogged septic line or a basement floor drain that's been feeding on dust and pet hair, that grinding action can be a lifesaver. It eliminates the need to manually pull out debris or call a plumber for a costly jet cleaning session. Now, let's talk about the flow numbers. The spec sheet says 54 GPM max and a 66-foot head. In plain English, that means if your discharge line is short and relatively level, you'll be moving a lot of water enough to clear a flooded basement in a matter of minutes. If you have a longer run, say a 30-foot pipe that climbs a few feet before exiting to a municipal drain, you'll still be within the sweet spot. I've seen folks try to push a grinder pump up a 10-foot vertical rise into a rooftop tank. The head rating is where the motor starts to feel the strain, and you'll notice a drop in flow. So if you need to lift water more than 70 feet, you'll be looking at a different class of pump. The construction is another place where the Goulds design pays off. The impeller and volute are cast iron, which gives the pump a solid, heavy feel. That mass helps dampen vibrations when the cutter is doing its work, so you won't hear a constant rattling like you might with a lighter-weight plastic unit. The sealed ball bearings on the upper and lower shafts keep the cutter assembly precisely positioned, which translates to consistent grinding performance over months of use. In a real-world scenario, imagine you have a basement that fills up each spring. You install the grinder pump once, and for the next several seasons the cutter stays sharp without you having to take it apart for cleaning. That reliability is where the value really comes from: less time on maintenance, more peace of mind. On the flip side, there are a few practical weaknesses to keep in mind. The first is the power requirement. It runs on 115V single-phase. If you're working on a job site that only has 3-phase service or you need a higher voltage for a larger pump, you'll need an extra step, either a dedicated circuit or a transformer. Also, the cord is only 20 feet long. That sounds fine for a typical basement pit, but if your discharge point is farther away, you'll have to either relocate the pump or use an extension cord rated for the full 1 HP load. Using an undersized cord can cause voltage drop, which in turn reduces the grinder's cutting efficiency. Another hidden trade-off is the size of the inlet. The AGS1011 is built for a standard 2-inch pipe, which is great for most residential applications, but if you're dealing with a larger pipe diameter, say a 3-inch main line in a commercial setting, the inlet will be a bottleneck. You'll end up with slower intake, and the cutter will have to work harder to process the same volume of water. That's not a failure mode. It's just a reminder that the pump is optimized for typical home-grade plumbing, not industrial mains. Who should actually buy this? If you're a DIY homeowner who's already dealing with intermittent flooding, a slow-moving septic line, or a basement that collects a lot of grit, the Goulds AGS1011 is a solid